Welcome, everybody, to the Raad Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Rod Gantos on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Raad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Rod Gantos.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to the Raad Life, another episode in our fourth year of being on the air now. So, not everybody applauded at the same time, Paul. Thank you very much. Here, I'll applaud. No, I want to say. Okay.
They're a little slow to react as I am today.
You know, those who know me very well. And we were joking about this because it takes us a couple of minutes to get started today because Paul, and I will own it, is used to me basically being late to be on the air.
Why? Yeah, why be ready at noon?
No, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna own it, right? But I told him, I said this is 2019, so I'd like to change it up a little bit.
Okay,
right? But there is something I used to say, and it's that we may be late, but we're never slow. Okay, so we're never slow on this show either, and today is no exception. But I do want to thank everybody who was guests in the last 4 years of this show, and looking forward to bringing you guys a bunch of great people doing awesome stuff, very much passionately pursuing a career, a profession in giving,
a life journey,
which is, thank you, Paul, also 4 years ago for dubbing me a
Age Explorer.
So, with that being said, I do want to introduce my guest today. And it is not by any accident that I lined this up before Valentine's Day, by the way. Right?
I get it.
All right. But it's not what you think either. Right? So, I'd like to introduce my guest, Tiffany Yelverton, who told me that actually her title is trademarked. And Tiffany, say hello.
Hello. And thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I've been looking forward to this. And what is the title that is trademarked?
Sexinista.
What?
Yes. Tiffany.
She didn't just say that. Come on.
She did. Are we subject to SEC?
No.
Okay, great. We're good.
Just my own Puritan
watch out then.
Just my own Midwestern Catholic upbringing. That's all we're subject to here.
So, and your reaction, actually, thank you very much for playing along, Paul, right? Your reaction is spot on because I think a lot of people, and I was talking to Tiffany about this a little bit before the show, a lot of people hear that and go, what? Like, I'm kind of just about comfortable slightly, more now that I'm older with the topic in general. And then there's an actual job title involved, right? And you then corrected me and said that you're not a therapist.
I am not.
You are a coach.
I'm a coach.
Okay, so why don't you just explain to people what the difference is?
Well, a coach really helps people move from where they are to where they want to be. It's goal setting. If you think about it, if you are in a sport, it's somebody that helps you get better at what
as a coach.
As a coach.
Right.
A therapist is very highly educated and kind of more sometimes in a box. They also have done tons of experimental and internship hours. I have done those in real life, not with observation by another therapist. And they really unpack the past and why things were caused. And their job and model is to keep you in therapy kind of your whole life based on the insurance module, and it's not their fault. But I want to get people through my programs as fast as possible so that they can move on with their lives and I can see more people.
Right, so you're sort of goal-oriented based on individual goals. They may be too, but their approach is a bit more like let's break it down, let's go back, let's look at all this stuff, okay? Which, again, there's a benefit and to that in the right setting, I guess, but that's not what you do. So, okay.
And I love therapists. I've been in therapy. I love it. It saved my life. It's very, very important.
Oh, I think everybody should. I mean, I'm pointing my finger at Paul. I don't think he has, but everybody should go through some therapy.
Yes.
Have you been through therapy?
I did, actually.
Wow.
I did a long time ago.
Oh, the stuff that you learn on this show. Okay, I'm sorry. This is too good, right? So what
I had one of those periods in my life where everything seemed to just sort of fall apart, and I was
Probably
experiencing
more common than people will admit.
experiencing panic attacks, terrible panic attacks, which I still suffer for. Every so often I get panic attacks. Usually when I'm in clothes, like in an airplane or something, I can subject to panic attacks. And so I went to see a therapist about that. And the thing that's the most difficult is to sort of face, you're probably at least part of the cause of this. You know, either
Me?
No, I mean, well, yeah. I didn't even know you then, but I said,
me in person.
he's the problem. You go in there, you're thinking, you know, what's wrong with me, and just fix it, and then you have to find, you know, you yourself as the cause of some of this.
Well, like I said,
The way you were raised, the things you believe, the things you.
That's I think that's a revelation to a certain extent that everybody probably comes to terms with at some point of their lives or not. But so let's go back to this. Did you wake up like one morning and decide to do this? Is this something that you've always done? Give us a little bit of background on Tiffany.
Well, I'm just a small town girl from Idaho.
That explains
that's
it
how
all.
The best stories start.
Right there. Right. If you've ever been to a small town in Idaho, you know they need sexonistas.
Wasn't there a tornado and a dog?
That's Kansas.
That's Kansas.
Yeah, I understand.
Next state over, right?
But yeah, next state over. Okay.
And I guess I've always been fascinated by sex and how it affects relationships, how it affects your life. And I grew up in a really conservative area. My family was not conservative, so I didn't feel like I was pressured to have sex or that it was something that was bad, so I had to go out and do it, which one thing that I've been talking about a lot lately is one of the reasons that I guess I really started to think about what I wanted to do is because when I was in high school, our high school had one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates per capita in the United States my junior year. And what that looks like was 22 girls I knew in our two high schools that were pregnant. And it wasn't like who you would think, the other side of the track girls. It was our AP English class. It was
the cream.
The cream of the crop. And it was just from lack of education and lack of knowing your body. And so it's very important to me that we talk about sex. It shouldn't be taboo. It's something that's important in our lives.
I'm not putting you on the spot here, Tiffany, but what years are we talking about?
I was a junior in 1990.
Yeah, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And don't you think there's a pressure in
the dark ages? It wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
And don't you think there's a pressure in small towns? Kind of like, what else are you supposed to do? You're supposed to be getting on and having a family and doing all these things and marrying your high school sweetheart.
Yes.
Michigan,
sorry.
Oh, I'm a Buckeye, so.
Uh-oh. But there was kind of a feeling of, okay, not just I don't know how to prevent this from happening, but it's almost like I want this to happen. I'm ready for this. Time for this to happen.
Well, and there's probably a whole bunch of different things, right? There's societal pressures. There's rite of passage. All things. God knows what's triggering it for people to either engage in sex or abstain from sex. There's, you can only imagine, like, the emotional instability of somebody in, junior or, even a senior in high school. I mean, all the emotions, all the hormones that are raging, and the confusion that comes with it. So, okay, that's high school.
So that was high school.
So did you start becoming a sexonista at that time?
No, I didn't, but it just fascinated me about sex and how it was so condemned in our culture and our society, especially where I grew up, that it wasn't ever talked about.
Yeah, we're pretty Puritan for an open society with liberal thoughts, right?
And then, I got into a sexual relationship. I was a little older. I was 19 when I first had sex. But I realized that everything that I'd always been taught about sex was that it came with consequences, that, you would have a reputation or you would get a disease or get pregnant. And I was never taught about pleasure. And a few years later, I realized, talking to some girlfriends, that I had never had an orgasm. And I thought something was wrong with me. I thought, I just need more sex because I'm not satisfied. But really, it's that I needed better sex. And so being able to explore my body and learn about it and then experience orgasms and change the way that I felt about myself, it gave me more confidence. And I knew from then I wanted to really teach people how to have better sex. I didn't know, 20 years ago, I didn't know what that would look like. And I got into a career and was very
What did you do?
I worked in restaurant management and training. I was very successful in that industry.
Very different from that.
Very different, but running a corporation pretty much.
Sure.
And I got burned out at that and working,
it's a tough industry.
60 to 80 hours a week sometimes, no life,
Easily.
moving around the country. And I decided it was time to, with some help from my therapist and some guidance from some really great medical professionals, that I decided it was time to do something I was really passionate about.
What would you think was the catalyst? Was it the burnout? What was the moment of aha for you to basically make that transition?
Well, the moment of clarity, I guess, was when my therapist and my other doctors looked at me and said, you're probably going to not last too much longer if you stay in this industry, because
it's not healthy for you.
Your health is failing, you're suicidal, it's not a good situation for you. And kind of at the same time, I went to a sex toy party with one of my managers that was on my team, and
Your manager said, "Hey, come on, let's go to the sex toy party."
yeah,
here?"
we were like a family. So I went. I was like, oh, that's exciting. I need to buy some things. I thought it would be really fun.
Is this like a Tupperware party where they just sort of bring out all the things and everybody laughs and you show them and then people line up and buy different things here? Or?
Yes, it was
Well, and
exactly like that.
Right.
Only it wasn't what I thought. That's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be educational and fun, but it was really crass and kind of cheesy.
Well, and you're working 60 to 80 hours a week. You have no life. You're basically at work all the time. So it's understandable that you're trying to basically find some balance. And so something like this makes perfect sense that you would basically go. So what was your experience like?
It was, very uncomfortable being there with a coworker. And it was just so, kind of like ha 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 cheesy and like, oh, we're talking about sex. And at that moment, I was sitting there and said, we need to have these conversations.
Almost juvenile.
But we don't need it to be made fun of. It needs to be a serious conversation. And this is a great forum to have it, is at a home party. And so that's when I came up with the little black dress of pleasure and decided that was what I was going to do.
So basically, you took your business background and looked at something that was being offered and saw, and it's really funny because the business you were in was a service-oriented industry, and that basically looked to satisfy people from the position of whether it's beverage, food, or beverage.
Yep,
So
nurturing.
those are nurturing basic needs, if you will, of eating and nourishment, right? And then here you are basically finding yourself in a party that's supposedly is trying to fulfill another need, if you will, physical need, and then basically realizing that the experience of what you experienced doesn't meet those high caliber of service. That's kind of fascinating because I can totally see that. Like I do the same thing when it comes to environments. Like I'll walk into a space and I'll go, yeah, this kind of missed the boat. And it's kind of got a good intention, but it's not delivering on what it's supposedly doing. But you shared with me this when we first talked a while back. You shared with me that there was also a serious component to what you discovered at those parties.
Yes.
Right? Again, and I want to paint the picture in terms of timeline. This is what, early 2000, maybe?
No, it was actually 2010 or end of 2009.
8 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
and the reason I'm making these timestamps is because when we talk about confusion and lack of understanding and not really having in-depth, which we don't do our kids, by the way, a service when we do that, right? In high school. And then you are here at a sex party or sex toy party or whatever. What's the proper term?
Sex toy party.
Sex toy party.
Girls' night out.
Girls' night out.
Pleasure
right?
party.
Pleasure party. And this is 2010. 2009,
Yeah.
2000, whatever,
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, 8
Yeah.
years ago, whatever. And you discovered something else that is actually, in my book, very serious. Not just that, it doesn't,
Right.
Yeah, what was that?
So I bought products. I was excited about them. And then I noticed that they were changing color on each other and on my higher quality toys. And I thought if they're doing that, in a box, then what are they doing in my body? And that's
No.
when I found out and discovered that chemicals that have been outlawed in children's toys and since then in pet toys
Oh my
are
God.
not outlawed in adult novelty products and adult sex toys and lubricants, personal care products. So we're putting some of the most toxic chemicals in the most absorbent parts of our body.
So consider that, ladies and gentlemen, a public service announcement of sorts from the Raad Life and from Tiffany.
I got to go back home and throw out a whole box of stuff.
Yeah, and
out.
Paul,
Yeah.
check your
toys at home.
toys for content, right? Because that blew my mind.
That's
I mean,
unbelievable.
less than
It
10
blew
years
my
ago.
mind.
Yeah,
I was so like,
and you're
how is
putting
this
it in such
happening?
an intimate
mucus
mucous
membrane.
membrane location. I mean, to put it mildly, and these are things that are outlawed in pet toys and in children's toys.
Yes.
Okay. Just let that sink in for a minute. It's like crazy. That's crazy. No regulation.
Is there any oversight or guidance in this industry, or is this just the Wild West and you make it, you can sell it, and nobody really...
That's why you need a coach.
You can make it, you can sell it, you can label it however you want. So I had heard stories about products being mislabeled and that the manufacturers would put anything on the label that you want. And most toys are made in China, so I figured it was just a language barrier until I started getting contacted by manufacturers to carry their products. And I would ask what they're made of, and they said it doesn't matter. You can put whatever you want on the label.
But is there a this is going to sound crazy, but is there an area of the government that somehow oversees this? I mean, if you've got children's toys, I don't know, there's obviously some department of the government, some bureau somewhere that checks into the safety of...
The sex toy department?
No, there is not, because nobody wants to
At the
talk
Chamber
about
of Commerce.
sex in Congress.
Right, and this is crazy. I mean, this is a
Even
health
though they're all
hazard,
doing
really.
it in Congress, it
Oh,
seems
yes,
like half the
especially.
time.
Right, it's a
yeah.
health hazard.
Well, and even if you look at the skincare industry and the products that we put on our skin, they're not regulated really. There are substances that are banned in products in the United States, but there's, I believe, 13 different chemicals just that are parabens that are banned in Europe, but are not banned in the United States.
In our skincare
that are in our skincare products. And if you look at how they're labeled, a lot of like personal lubricants are labeled for topical use only, which I don't know about you, but most lube goes inside the body, not just on your arm or something. And then also sex toys or in adult products are labeled as novelty, which means you should set it on a shelf and use at your own risk.
Well, and you know, I can imagine that a lot of people, you know, I want to kind of veer the conversation a little bit towards this, but you know, a lot of people that may be dealing with as they get older or because of illness, they're dealing with body image issues, especially these days where everything is very visual, everything is selfie this, you know, stop and repeat that, right? So there is a culture that is very image driven in terms of value based on image. And here we are basically dealing with maybe some people that are feeling very vulnerable, that maybe are getting older, maybe are feeling unloved, undesired, whatever. They've gone through chemotherapies. You know, we talked about cancer, right? And men and women, both sides, right?
Yes.
And they may be in a situation where, you know, who do they go to help them guide through this? They can't openly discuss it. Maybe they may not be there yet, right? Or how do they transition to regaining some of that body image? Paul, do we have a caller?
We do, and it fits in perfectly with what you're doing. We have one of the ladies from Modern Ageless Beauty who was in here on your show, Ingrid, whose name somehow is you can't ever forget when they come in and talk, but I for 5 seconds forgot her name here. But Ingrid's on the air with us. Welcome, Ingrid.
Hi, Ingrid. Ignore Paul.
Hi, Ingrid.
Hi, surprise.
Surprise.
But you were just talking about this is what, as I recall, one of the things they talk about. You know, can there be as we're on this aging journey? Is sex one of those just things that drops off along the way somewhere? Because you don't feel good, or you don't look good, or you don't like the way it is?
I think historically the assumption is that it's just something that does no longer becomes part of your playbook, if you will, as you get older.
Your playbook, yeah.
Right? The funny thing about that is that you, because we deal with a lot of
Let me
people.
pull up my playbook here and see. I'm going to take that page out.
Senior industry, assisted living, all that stuff. And the stories that you hear is, no. I think
they're going at it.
Oh, they're going at it. I mean, I think the funniest thing that somebody told me is like there's more Viagra use in assisted living than there is outside assisted living, and so it isn't something that goes away, but it definitely is something that we become more maybe image conscious, and especially when the world around us is telling us to be that. And oh my God, did you not post a social media post in the last 48 hours? What's wrong with you? You're not feeling good, right? You're down on yourself. You got to post something. So. And there's things, and Ingrid, thank you for calling, because I think it's, you could, share to this as well, is, what happens in those situations where I'm kind of feeling very bad, not really connected with my positive body image, and I've suffered from some illness maybe, or something. Who do I go to help me through something like that? Ingrid?
Ingrid.
Oh, you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't know. I was trying to set the stage because.
Tell your story a little bit,
yeah.
just real quickly, because you really kind of make this. I mean, it's a topic we can giggle about, but you were pretty serious about how women over a certain age, they get divorced or whatever, and you had some cancer issues and some other stuff. All of a sudden, sex is not something to do or talk about here.
Yeah, that's my personal story, and I have just met Tiffany recently, and because of that problem, I went through cancer, and so you go through a mixed emotions and feelings, and sex just is not pleasurable because it hurts because of the cancer and the radiation and the chemotherapy, and I was going through a really hard time with it, and I was introduced to Tiffany, which she called in when we were on your show. Right?
Yes, she did.
That's how it all kind of started, and she's just trying to help those that are having the same issue as me through it, and it's just absolutely amazing. We were at Hoag Hospital not recently, and she spoke to breast cancer survivors, and there were so many ladies that were going through the same thing, and they thought they were just on their own, and come to find out everybody's gone through the same thing, and she's just, it's so hard. It's just so hard to get back into it. So, I went to her, and she helped me through it, and she's helping me through it, and I just absolutely love.
Talk about the process, though. So somewhere along the way, you decided, hey, I need help here. This is no longer. This doesn't feel good. I don't like doing this. This isn't. And yet, you haven't abandoned the idea of it.
Let me just, for the listeners that don't know Ingrid, let me just say that, at least from my perspective, Ingrid is very outgoing. She's very, social. She's very open-minded. But for somebody, no, I'm only painting that picture because even in your case, you had a feeling that where do I go for this?
Exactly.
You happen to connect with Tiffany. Tiffany's doing this from that perspective, and it was almost like, I would think, almost like God sent. I mean, you said it. Everybody that was at that Hoag meeting, feeling like they were the only one basically going through this. In this day and age, in 2019, that's kind of a sad state of affairs.
Yes, I'm wondering
as conscious as we are as a society about cancer. This is something that isn't. We don't go there to that level.
So is this something that a friend, you finally break down and admit to a friend, and they say, here, talk to, it's like a card that gets passed around quietly from women to women? You didn't go on the internet and say, here, let me find a sexinista.
No, I'll tell you why. So
TM.
So Tiffany works with Sexy Survivors. It's a nonprofit that's dedicated to, education and to strengthen people's relationships that have gone through stuff. So she works with Sexy Survivors, and those are cancer patients, and that was something that just drew me to her, and I knew that she knew what I was going through, and then I come to find out, it was just amazing. It's not just, Entice Me is not just about, I don't know how you guys have been talking, but it's not about.
No, you're right on track. We've been talking about this. We did touch on the fact that there's obviously the fun aspect of it and all this stuff, but from where I'm sitting, Tiffany actually provides an amazing coaching and service by actually being there to deliver and help people just like as yourself to go through something, to find a way to empower you to get past this the way you want to get past it.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, you're right on track.
But even more so in just everyday relationships, spicing it up. I mean, she hosted a party the other night that I went to. Tiff, are you still there? You're not.
I'm here.
Advice at all.
You're doing a great job. She's just going to sit back and let you talk.
Yeah,
for
I'm just going to let you do it, Sexinista.
No, she asked me to come to this party the other night, and she was hosting the party, and her knowledge alone is just amazing. I mean, I just want to listen to her talk for days because she has so much knowledge about all of this, and it's just so interesting. And these women that were there, the things that she was saying, the toys that she was talking about, just everything about the whole night, it just enlightened so many women and their husbands and how their the outlook and to change it up and dress up and be sexy and try different things. And she's just great at all of that. I just think the world.
But is this the gist of what we started with? This is a conversation that's starting way back in high school. Nobody talks about how to spice it up. How to we're very as obsessed as we are with sex in our society. It's still a topic that's pretty taboo, even among friends. And at various ages and stages, particularly as we get older and issues come up, nobody wants to talk about this.
And yet, Tiffany, please jump in here. And yet, it has a direct impact.
It does.
On one's happiness, one's balance in their life,
Health.
all of that stuff, right? It's a health. It's a component. It's like if you don't have enough water, you dehydrate. Like you don't have enough knowledge and connection with yourself and with the significant other or partner, then you have a situation that needs some attention, right? And then what the thing. So share some of the stuff because Ingrid brought it up. But share some of the stuff, for example, that you shared with I'm assuming ladies at this party. Maybe it was gentlemen and ladies. I'm not sure.
This was just ladies. Okay. I do also do couple events, but this was women, wide range of ages from 30s to 60, and people telling their story, because when you walk into an event like that, what I found and how I created the community that I build is that we all walk in and go, oh, this is going to be fun, but I know a lot about sex, or I have a problem or an issue or concern about my sex life, and no one else knows what I'm talking about because I'm the only person. And when we start to ask questions that really open up that conversation about sex, everybody's like, oh, I'm not alone. I also have vaginal dryness. I also don't have a libido right now. Most of the women were around early 50s. I'm mid 40s, so I get it. And so women telling...
One of the husbands wanted to do something more, exciting, or that he wanted to switch it up a little bit, and the wife was really apprehensive. And so it was nice that she got to talk about it, because you can tell she's never really talked about it, and so she brought it up, and we kind of helped her through it. You know what I mean? And it was just it was exciting. It was fun. It was educational.
It's almost like a support group. You're helping get people to talk about things they don't otherwise talk about, like this show. We're talking casually about sexinistas.
Ingrid, remind me if this actually happened when you guys were on the show before. Didn't we come to a realization, was it with your show? I know it was with one of the shows that I had, realization that women actually don't even have an exchange of information relevant to like menopause. Like
they don't.
There is
no.
He wants to talk about.
Like you think a mother or a sister, whatever. It's funny because here's a similar situation. What you guys are describing is that here's a person. Where does she go to have that conversation about the fact that her husband basically wants to spice it up and she's apprehensive, to where she either feels validated for her apprehension or works through it. Like where do you go to do that? You pick up the phone book and look for what exactly, right?
Well, in the past, I believe that there hasn't been anywhere.
There isn't.
That's why we're kind of in the dark ages. I work with a lot of medical professionals that work with menopause age women and work with bioidentical hormones and sexual medicine. And there really hasn't been. I mean, yes, there is San Diego Sexual Medicine. It's the only hospital in the country that is dedicated to sexual medicine. That's got to say something, that we have one doctor of sexual medicine.
Well, I would think also, like, let's say somebody is going through that. It may not, like, and they may feel that the only option they have, and again, we're not knocking therapists, but they may feel that the only place they can go, and that's if they're sort of progressive, maybe, and open-minded to look for it even, okay, or have been heard of it or something, or listen to the show, is they would go to a sex therapist. Okay, but then with that comes the verb therapy. And with that comes the fact that now I'm basically opening myself, at least from what I little know about therapy, if I don't know, I do, is that I'm opening myself up to a elongated process. And where I'm maybe just looking for that, some bouncing board, some feedback, right? And I don't want to put myself under the microscope like that. And maybe just, hey, listen, I'm apprehensive right now. Can we have a cup of coffee and like talk about it? And, like, who do I talk to? So you're right. It's kind of a fascinating situation that 2019, it is not as commonplace to do that as go to urgent care.
Even if another place that women think maybe I can go to my gynecologist and ask these questions. But I have so many people, including myself, that if I wouldn't have been self-educated with being in all of these medical groups and pelvic therapy groups, I would not have known this. But, with incontinence, which is something, again, we don't want to talk about, but adult diapers now outsell children's diapers.
Wow.
And you ask your doctor, what do I do about this? Oh, that's just part of life. It's part of aging. You had kids, you're on your feet all the time. Just something you have to go to. But that's not. I mean, I went to 4 different specialists.
No, it's a Band-Aid. It's not even an emotionally come to grips with something. Yeah, I just put those on. Yeah, and let's again remind people, when you say incontinence, when you say adult diapers, we're talking about a baby boomer population that's of about 71 million people. Okay, about 10,000, I think, or higher a day turning 65. So it's not this small little thing, right, that's happening. And it is interesting that this will be something that they will, like, I have incontinence. I have, the desire, but it hurts. And I don't want, like, where do I go with that? I'm just going to be, like, now basically sentenced to, like, whatever remaining part of my life, 20 years of misery. Because I can't speak about this, where do I go to it? If you go to a medical professional, I think medical professionals are well-intentioned, but they don't have necessarily, maybe a lot of them maybe have the people skills, the compassion to basically address this from that perspective.
Yeah.
Well, and most medical professionals only get 6 hours of training
and shorter
about sex.
Oh, about sex, yeah.
About sex itself. So they're not educated in it. That's not their fault.
But they also have less and less time to spend with a patient because of the insurance model.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I work, when I go into offices, help them build patient retention and client retention, because I can have workshops for them and bring their clients and patients in and really spend the time talking about sex.
So let's talk about how big this issue is.
Well, before we do, hold on a second, Paul. Before we do, 2 things. One, would you give the websites, please, and how people can find out more?
Yes, call Tiffany.
Please.
Tiffany.
My website is enticeme.com and sexysurvivors.org.
So go check those out, because there's a lot of information on there, and it gets you connected with Tiffany. I know you're also on social media.
Yes.
Okay. So the other question I had, and before we move on to Paul's question, is when you were at Hogue, like, what was that? What was the reason you guys were at Hogue? I assume it was a meeting. There was a couple of other people there speaking, maybe panelists, something.
Yes, Dr. Sadia Khan is a prominent breast surgeon at Hogue, and she's put together a group for survivors called Hogue Health. And we do a quarterly meeting where she brings in panelists to speak about issues that her survivors and patients are going through. And so this time it was about sex and body image and feeling sexy again, because when you have had body altering surgeries and chemotherapy, like Ingrid mentioned, a lot of doctors don't even tell their patients that they're going to go through an artificial menopause when they go through chemotherapy.
It's true.
And so they've said, okay, you are now have to take estrogen blockers, and you're going to be drier and drier, but we don't have anything we can give you because you can't use these products that contain parabens because those can raise your estrogen levels. And so really 4 years ago, I started educating it's now called Hogue for Her, and the pelvic pain clinic there about the chemicals in the products. And they started carrying the products, and then I was asked to speak about body image and confidence and, changing it up and getting back to yourself so that you feel like having sex, because it's very taboo, especially in that situation. So I spoke, there was a nutritionist that spoke, and I spoke, and there was not a dry eye. It was so it was just one of my favorite things.
How many people do you think were in attendance?
There was probably about 75.
That's good.
Which goes to my point. I think this is one of the most underreported aspects of getting older. And I'll give you 3 examples of it. One is you just don't like the way you look. We don't look like we did when we were 30, and somehow we feel bad about ourselves, and we don't want to do this, expose ourselves. 2, you're going through menopause, you're going through cancer, you're going through, you've had your breast removed. There's something physical that's an impediment into your mind here that says, I can't do this anymore. And I think, and then the other thing, there was a huge statistic about the number of seniors that are going to end up alone because of divorce and because of death or outliving a spouse, and how many of them are just alone just to begin with. Forget about how they feel about themselves.
There's
or
also
what
an
they're
emotional layer to it. There's a psychological layer to it. There's, what else it may conjure up from previous relationships. How many people do you know, Tiffany, that are doing what you're doing right now? So you're the only one I know that is doing that.
I never heard anybody talk about this. Yeah.
Because I am in the industry, I know
that's why
more.
I'm asking,
but a lot, I find that most are not as mainstream maybe as I am. And that's what I'm really going for, is to get people to know that I'm just like them. I'm just like your girl next door, and I can talk to you about what's going on. But I want to make sure that everybody knows, too, it's not just women that go through this. Body image issues for men are really on the rise. And from not only, the health magazines, that everything is so photoshopped and airbrushed.
8x10 glossies, curated content everywhere.
But also
certainly on social media everywhere.
Prostate cancer, too. A lot of my clients will tell me that they would have never had the prostate surgery if they would have known that they were going to have erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, do you hear that, guys? Prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, how do you deal with it? Where do you go talk about it? You can talk to your doctor about it? 9 out of 10 times, unless they have some personal thing.
I'm going to go tune into the Raad Life.
Well, no, but thank you for bringing that up, because
exactly,
because sometimes we talk about cancer, and I think this is another societal layer. So we talk about cancer, and it's sort of this very emotional, supportive, everybody behind it when it comes to women, right? But there are, and increasingly, thank God, increasing awareness, like with Movember and prostate cancer and so forth, that, more and more men are saying, look, I need to take care, make sure, go test it, get tested, try to catch it early, what is do I have a family history potentially, et cetera, et cetera. But this is another layer that, much as I am aware with prostate cancer, that until you basically connected the dots, I had never heard.
And it isn't for all men, but for the majority. But
there's a body image component to it, I would think.
Yes,
and,
that's
anyway,
your manhood.
Right? Yeah.
Just like breasts are feminine and part of you.
There are people that I know that have had vasectomies, and they basically take a long time, not only physically to heal, but to get the idea is great, and then it takes them a while to actually come to terms with it after emotionally. So there's that. Ingrid, since you still are on the call with us, what do you think to date? Because I know it's not going to be the only thing, but what do you think to date has been the most enlightening thing that you have gotten from basically being involved with Tiffany? How has she helped you the most?
Oh my gosh, just her knowledge and the company that she put together. It's just so classy, and it's just helping. Like I said, now more than ever, because I am a cancer survivor, that she donates and does so many things with the sexy survivors is so important to me. I know that when we were on the show, I was talking about makeovers. Like I
Yeah.
have my story with cancer, and I lost my hair.
Yeah, you
and
talked
I
about
went
your
through a
wigs.
I went through a horrible depression, and my self-esteem was low, and I didn't feel like myself, and like I said, mine's the wig story because I fell in love with that. I've always been in the beauty industry, so makeovers were always extremely important. I love to make people feel good, and I just want women to know that they don't have to be stuck in that they can feel like $1 million just like they did, before all of this. And Tiffany is just helping women to realize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And even with relationships, even these days, social media is good and social media is bad. For me, it's
True.
all about every swipe left, swipe right, Match.com. There's so many. Everybody's looking better than everybody else with the filters and everything else. I mean, for men, it's a menu, it's a sea of women. And it's a difficult era. It's a difficult time to live in right now because there's always somebody better looking. There's always somebody younger. There's always going to be somebody that's, attractive. And it's hard to stay focused in a relationship.
Right.
And I think the things that she's offering, the courses that she's offering, she offers some great courses through Entice Me, some really intimate courses. And I think what makes me happy about all of that is that she's just helping people.
And give your site too for the makeovers and the other stuff that you guys do.
Let's give the website for you guys too.
Oh, it's Modern Ageless Beauty.
ModernAgelessBeauty.com.
And you guys do what?
Yeah.
You do your seminars and retreats. I think you do.
We inspire and
We
empower.
empower. All right.
But we all kind of work together. We empower and inspire women over 40 to be the best that they can be. We have a huge focus on hormone therapy because that's Sherry's story. My story is my cancer and how it got me back to where I want to be. And that's how we kind of met Tiffany. And so we're all out there just trying to help. There's always, I always say for Modern Ageless Beauty, there's always a cause and purpose to whatever we do, because then why do it at all?
Let me add one other layer to that. Not only are you guys, and let me just say that you guys are all very inspiring, very inspirational in what you guys do. It's not that you're out there to help. You're out there to give. You guys give of yourself in how you help. And somebody may say, "Oh, this is well, that's what women do." No, I don't think so. I think it's something that is a reflection of who you are as individual people, and you bring that to everything. There's a passion to what you do. There's a genuine giving. What they call it, a servant's heart almost in what you guys do. You find your own way of delivering it, but basically maybe with comfort of what you've been done in the past, how you relate to one another. But I have seen you guys, and it's an amazing thing that you are doing in just the nuts and bolts version of it. But how you are going about doing it is as important, because I think you can give somebody all that information. So here it is. It's all printed. It's great. I put it on a website. It's you can do it privately. You don't need to know. But you guys actually put yourselves out. And that is something
and build
I
a
just
community
want
of
to acknowledge.
support. Yeah, of others. Right.
I want to acknowledge that, because it's one thing to sit in a support group and just basically go through the rote routine. And it's a totally different story when you're basically vulnerable and willing to basically be willing to receive and also give from a real deep part of your soul. And you guys do this every day. So I really thank you, Ingrid, for calling and sharing that, because it's nothing more important than a first person testimonial for this. And Tiffany's sitting here going, why am I even here? Why don't you guys just continue to talk about me? But no, I think I think you guys are amazing. I'm so glad that you called. And I urge everybody to basically check out those websites, modernagelessbeauty.com, enticeme.com, and sexysurvivors.org.
Yeah.
And continue to do.
Sorry if I talk too much, Tiff.
It's all great.
No, you didn't talk too much. I think I really welcomed your call.
You.
Yeah. So thanks, Ingrid, very much.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right,
Be
we're
well, my
going to
friend.
cut you off
Thank you.
here. I think it's a topic that people are uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with. I think we're all uncomfortable with as you get older. This whole idea of sex is just somehow supposed to fade into the woodwork, and you've got men with erectile dysfunction, you've got women with body images, you've got cancer survivors.
We don't even call it erectile dysfunction. We call it ED.
Right.
I remember.
It's like we don't call it dying. We call it passing.
I'll give you.
It's like.
I'll give you just my little. I know this is half of.
Well, we're going to go a little longer.
Okay, I'll give you my little intimate story here of my mother. My mother was just a wonderful, fun, loving person. But later in life, she had Parkinson's and lots of horrible things. And the last 10 years were miserable of her life. And one of the adding misery to pain to misery, she had breast cancer, and had her breast removed. And I remember, I mean, this is not something my parents were ever going to talk about. You know, I'd start covering my ears about their intimate sex life or something. It was not something I ever wanted to ever hear. But I know that the little bit I could tell that my mother sort of opened up to me at the end, her biggest thing was she thought my father would never want to look at her again. And she was just so horrified. And I shared that with my dad, and he was like, "Oh my God, I've been with this woman for I think literally like 50 years." And he said, "I see past, you know, neither of us look like we used to. We're, you know, if it was just based on imagery alone, no, this is, I see your mother," and I know he did. He saw her as just this wonderful, adoring person that he just, you know, in his eyes, she was going to be 30 for the rest of her life.
Yeah, but we're all human beings.
We're human.
We always go
and
there.
I just was so horrified that my mother, one, is talking to me about anything about their intimacy, and I felt so sad that, like, oh my God, at this age, all the misery she's going through, and this is the biggest fear she has in her life, that the only man she's ever been with in her whole life is no longer going to look at her or touch her because her breasts have been removed.
Tiffany, you were going to say something?
Yes, I hear that all the time. It's amazing. I mean, and just even when you gain weight or anything, like, oh, no one wants to look at me, and
touch me, be with me,
be with me, right, you know. And I do kind of joke a little bit about it, but it's really true that, you know, men are just happy that there's a naked lady in their bed.
Yeah, right, exactly. That would be my dad, right? Yeah.
Right, like it's more than just that physical.
But I'll tell you something, Tiffany. It's really funny. You just reminded me of something. So I came over here to do a master's degree, and I was probably about 20. I had people that I knew that were doing undergraduate, and I remember this. It just brought this back. These guys were talking about their trip to Hawaii. And they were showing some pictures of trip to Hawaii. There's a bunch of guys that just went to Hawaii for like a spring break or something, right? And one of them was constantly in there wasn't a surfer top at the time. It was just a T-shirt.
Right.
He was always in a T-shirt. Always in a T-shirt. He was the only one that was always in a T-shirt. Now, the guy was a handsome gentleman. He was in good shape, okay? He actually... We made fun of him. It was like, well, why are you always in a T-shirt, right? He had something about his stomach, and to the point where he worked out like crazy, but he still didn't feel comfortable with the way his stomach looked.
Oh, we all have issues,
I remember saying to him, I said, so when you're having sex, you keep the T-shirt on too, and he goes, yes. And this is a man that was probably at best in his early 20s.
I have had that experience with a guy as well.
So from one extreme to the other, from your 20s to your 70s or 80s here. Yeah, right. I just don't...
When do you feel comfortable in your own skin? I mean, that is the ancient question of all times that never really has an answer.
And here's what amazes me the most about this.
I have a theory on that as well.
Okay, what's your theory?
Is that when we self-pleasure, and this is especially important for women, is that when we self-pleasure, the oxytocin that's released in our bloodstream is not connecting us to someone else emotionally or with that cuddle chemical reaction. It actually circulates through our bloodstream and creates self-love, which helps you overcome body image issues and creates confidence. And I have a whole presentation about sex and money and the gender wage gap. But what I really believe is that's how it really affected me, is when I had an orgasm for the first time. I weighed 100 pounds, almost less than I do now. And I thought I was way overweight.
Wow.
And now I'm much more confident. I love my body. It's not a size 6 or a size 4. It's an 18, and men love it too. And I don't get that pushback of, you know, I'm comfortable in my skin, but I also create my own orgasms on a regular basis. And that really does help my confidence.
Well, and there's nothing sexier than confidence. I mean,
Right.
it sounds like a cliche, but it's very true if we
It
really
is.
wanted to admit it.
It is the number
So
one
here's
thing
my-
that men look for in
Hold
women.
on a second, Paul. So, okay, and the thing about body image, right? I mean, I think it's funny that you put it that way, because what you're really talking about is self-love. Okay, now, so you're saying self-pleasure, okay, but it's really self-love too, right? And we as a society will talk about all day long. I mean, just turn on your freaking social media feeds, right? Self-love and self-care and looking after yourself and empowerment and all this stuff, right? But then, do we take that conversation to that level of self-pleasure? Because it's, in my book, it's the same thing, and it makes
It is.
perfect sense when I talk about it in terms of self-love, building confidence, right? But then, so for some reason, I'm supposed to feel like a little wrong if I talk about like self-pleasure as well as being another way of self-loving, and therefore, it's like no, you should never do that. There should always be like an intimacy component with somebody else. Well, not necessarily. I mean, this is not how you build that sense of self. Okay, whether it is doing a task on your own, let's not say that it's self-pleasure, but you're taking on a task, achieving it on yourself, setting a goal, meeting it, with financial savings, whatever, something at work, the feeling that you get out of that, basically achievement for yourself, right? That's,
Yes.
You almost want to ask, when did the word selfish become a bad thing?
We should be selfish.
Right?
We have to take care of ourselves. No one else is going to. If we were all more confident and able to take care of our own needs.
Well, that's
Would
the
be
basic
a-
starting building block. I mean, if you don't
Yeah,
have that,
food
then
and sex, like we talked about in nourishment, that is our two human needs. Our pleasure, it's a birthright. Having food, it's supposed to. be
and I don't
good
go to a
for you.
restaurant and have somebody else order for me what I want to eat, right?
Right. And if you don't know your own body, you can't communicate what you like to
And
another
what you don't
person
like
and
to
what
another
you don't
person.
like.
And
So
when
the
no
obvious question
communication-
I've been trying to butt in, no pun intended, is
But
why,
then you mean?
why in our society, from our earliest age to our last years, is sex still such a taboo topic? We've gone so
It's
far. We have
not
to-
everywhere, by the way.
We have total nudity in movies. We have total freedom. My whole era was about blowing the sexual revolution open and empowering yourself and everything here. And yet, what I'm hearing is from the time you're in high school and these girls are supposed to be smarter than this, they're all getting pregnant, either because they don't know how to stop it or they feel a societal pressure to get pregnant and have babies and raise families or whatever it is, to the last final years, all these issues that come up that prevent us from enjoying this. Why is this such a taboo topic still?
Tiffany, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
I do. And what's interesting is you said it's not everywhere, but actually across most cultures, religions, genders, everybody says that, it's my culture that doesn't talk about sex. It's all of our cultures that don't talk about sex. And I really don't know why it is. I think it just is something that is intimate, and we've gotten in such a rut that we don't know how to talk about it because we haven't been taught how to talk about it. Our religions tend to shame it.
But there's certain places that have a little bit
I
of
would
a different
say
handle on
Europe,
it.
is definitely
Northern Europe,
ahead of.
I was
like,
shocked the other day. I was shocked and kind of amused that New Zealand, for example, prostitution in New Zealand is legal.
In New Zealand?
Yeah, it's legal. It's that taboo has been taken out of the equation. Holland, we all know about the red districts.
Holland, yeah.
Northern Europe tends to have a little bit more, like the Dutch have a very open kind of conversation about it, whether joking or playful or whatever. The
Yes.
discussion isn't something that we avoid. God knows we don't avoid discussions on this show, right? But the discussions
But
are
you're
not
from the
something-
Middle East. That's certainly an area where
I should be on the opposite side of this conversation. I
Yeah,
should be
exactly.
like, no, la, 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 I'm not talking to anybody about this, right? But I think because I experienced that, and because I see the benefit of this, having conversations, is why I see the importance of this even more so. And I think, we can pride ourselves as being an open society in the United States all day long, but at the end of the day, the Puritan,
it's huge.
religious, what is it? Why are 70-year-old men, white men, basically standing up and talking about reproductive rights for women? Exactly. I mean,
Don't get me started.
where does the authority come from for that one? Show me a 71-year-old woman talking about reproductive rights for you know. I mean, it's just would the conversation about reproductive rights even be an issue if it was men who got pregnant?
On every single
it would never be an issue.
We are so screwed up about sex and have been my entire
Would
life.
we still be talking about whether condoms should be given out in high school? I mean, like, seriously, if men got pregnant, would we still have that conversation?
No. And they don't in Sweden. I mean, I heard...
Men don't get pregnant in Sweden?
No, they don't have that conversation about not giving out condoms.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like the craziest thing to do. I mean, your kid's going to go out in the rain. You don't give him a raincoat? I mean, I don't know better. You're screaming at him to put it on.
And yet, I've been a father. You know, that's the last thing. I mean, I didn't want my daughter to get pregnant, but at the same time, I can't face that she's going out and doing this. I can't encourage it.
And you are a 60s generation, free love, open society. What happened to you people?
Believe me. You wait until you're a parent and this stuff comes around in your face here again. All of these issues.
Wait till you're a parent. Like the whole world changes. Your whole philosophy and approach changes.
It does.
You become a Puritan.
You become your
stuck
parents.
in the mud.
You become your parents.
You become your parents.
We learn from what we've grown up with.
I think you need a little bit more self-love, Paul, is what it is.
Well, yeah, maybe. But, I'll give you another example. We've had women come in here and talk about the gender equality. You want to go to another one where women can be the most. I remember seeing don't beat me up and everybody jumping, but many, many years ago, a study was done at the University of Michigan.
If you're about to be a sexist, I'm
I'm going to be a sexist a little bit here, but there was a study done at the University of Michigan of very successful, I think it was like doctors or something, and men and women, and how they viewed what they wanted in the other person. And it was shocking. Women still wanted somebody who was stronger and taller and made more money and all that. And these are like very powerful, successful women. But this image had been planted into the brain.
How do you feel about that?
I think we have these sort of gender roles that are programmed into us as children. And I think it's hard to break out of these little movies and these little patterns, no matter what you achieve in life. And I think that all of these things, and I keep thinking, oh, my God, haven't we gone past any of these things here? And no, we seem to be replaying these same. Well,
I think there's a certain
these same tapes over and over and over and over again.
The human being is a very interesting mechanism, right? There's a part of the human psyche that basically is more comfortable in an uncomfortable, familiar space than actually venturing outside that safe space of being uncomfortable.
Look at 99.
I'd rather not know.
I'll give you a really silly example.
And not be having that conversation, even though I know I may not be benefiting as much as I should be. But if I put my foot in that water over there, first of all, I might get hurt. Secondly, even worse, I might like it. And now basically I'm going to living outside my comfort zone. And now this is going to be where I'm basically my reality. It's almost like awareness. Once you have awareness, you're like, wow, this is so cool. And then it's so much awareness that you start looking for that switch to turn it off. And you realize somebody plastered over that switch and you can't turn it off anymore. It's a very interesting thing about people's reluctance. They will tell you, I deal with this on interior design side. Oh, I want the most contemporary, coolest, like really push the envelope. By the time this is week 1, first meeting.
Yeah, right.
Okay. By the time we're week 4, and we're really going to now start looking at stuff.
Back to white sofas.
Well, I kind of like this shabby chic thing that, I remember having my grandmother, and then there's justification. I enjoyed afternoons on this thing, and I start convincing myself why I need to stay in my little comfortable corner. So unless you have somebody who's going to coach you out of that
let me give you
say
one,
it's okay for you to dip your toe in.
Let me give you one example here. Okay. 3 of us here, and I don't know if you're married or have a partner or whatever. How many couples is the man shorter than the woman? I'm much
You're
taller
talking
than
about standing height, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, as your wife, I've never met.
because when you're laying down, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
No.
But I'm just saying that we all start to gravitate. All the men are always taller than the women.
This is your thing, Paul. Okay, you're using the justification of stereotype to keep yourself. You're proving my point. To keep yourself in that comfort zone, because in fact, if you opened your eyes around you, I will tell you that is not necessarily true.
I challenge it. I'd say most couples, the men are still taller than the women because we have this in our brain. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Really? Have you talked to a couple of short,
I'm not saying there's
not short men that are married to models. I mean, have you talked to?
I don't see many of that. That's if it does, it stands out.
Do you live in Orange County?
Yeah. No, well, okay, yeah, I suppose, but I know what you're saying.
Tiffany's laughing.
But I think that's part of.
Let's go down to Fashion Island. Like, you'll go get a cup of coffee at
But
Fashion
that's
Island.
part of the appeal. Then they say that's because I'm a short man. I've been waiting my whole life, and only when I become rich can I have
But you just destroyed your own stereotype.
No. I'm saying that the stereotype exists. We're these. You're saying that stereotype doesn't exist any longer.
I want to bring it back to this topic, okay? Because I know that this show tends to be your own therapy session.
Yeah,
but,
right.
we're off that for now.
Exactly right. Okay.
You got to pay Tiffany and me for therapy. Next
Okay,
time,
all right.
But let's talk about this from one perspective, okay? It all comes down to self-love.
Yeah, and
Right?
self-image
and self-confidence and self-image is the way it's part of the mix. So
Absolutely.
we can ignore it all day long and try to pretend it's not and be elevate above it all, or we can actually admit the fact that this is part of our makeup and this is something that affects us and that we may need some help on occasion between now and then, because we all go through it. It's a journey of life, right? You may be losing a relationship, and that leaves an emotional impact on you. You may have a physical situation. You may have an illness. You may be out of circulation. Talk about all the people that basically, men and women, that find themselves out of work for a while. Women, especially if they're basically caring for their family and then want to go back into the workforce. Where do they go to basically help them transition with that, from having already been maybe successful, but now basically 8 or 9 years later, the kids are old enough they can actually go back and pursue it. Is society even open to that? How do they successfully transition? These are all things that basically affect us, every single one of us. And the worst thing we can do is put a layer of taboo on having conversations about them.
Right. Mm-hmm. But we do.
Well, not on this show.
Not on this show.
Okay. Tiffany, let's give out the websites again before we call it a day here.
EnticeMe.com and SexySurvivors.org.
And if this conversation hasn't enticed you to check out those websites, you are definitely bottled up and you definitely need to call somebody. Start off with calling Tiffany.
Call me.
And what do you do?
Don't call Paul.
I mean, in terms of if somebody was wondering, is it just workshops that you do? Do you do one-on-one coaching? Do you?
Good question, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. I do workshops. I am just launching my online courses, and I do private sessions as well.
Yeah,
And by phone, Skype. I have clients all over the world, so it doesn't have to be here in Orange County.
Right.
It can be anywhere. I am based in Long Beach.
And look, this is not putting you on show, putting you on stage. This is a very discreet, intimate, about you, for your benefit. Consider it a support that you get to decide how much to turn the dial on, and basically have at least somewhere safe that you can go with some of these concerns that you may not have somebody to go to. Maybe they'll tell you this. Not everything that you are going through is something that maybe should be shared in a relationship with a significant other. Some things maybe should be shared in a different setting, right? It's not always that,
But don't suffer. Don't suffer alone.
Don't
Yeah.
suffer, and don't suffer in silence.
Right.
Right.
But
There is people to help you, whether it's me or someone else, but, don't suffer because
You can't talk about it, or you don't know where to
it's
go.
so
Right.
important to talk about it. And we don't need to share everything with our significant other, because then that takes the mystery
Well, it also
away from
burdens the
Right.
relationship sometimes. Sometimes the people that you're sharing it with, whether it's your husband or your wife, feel that they maybe don't have the answers, and now they're feeling bad because they don't have the answers, and that puts kind of a little additional distance layer. So again, there are people that can be there for you. Tiffany is one of them. The important thing is, look, we're less than 24 hours from Valentine's Day, right? The one thing, it's not about chocolates, it's not about inflatable balloons, it's not about roses. It really is, and starts off with one thing, and that is sense of self and sense of self-love.
Yes.
Everything else is gravy. But without that, you don't have a foundation that you can, and if you don't have it in you, the old adage, if you don't have it in you, you don't have it in your reserves, then you can't put it out to others.
Right.
Okay? On that note, I want to thank Tiffany for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was great to have you here. And I told you this wasn't going to be a typical Valentine's Day show, didn't I? So join us next week on the Raad Life, Wednesdays, 12 to 1. Thank you, Paul, for always keeping it interesting. even though people don't see you, but they hear you. So
I thought this was just going to be sort of snickering and titillating and laughing, like kind of what you described.
Wait,
as
hold on.
sex toy parties.
Wait, hold on. You mean
guys
it wasn't?
really got
It wasn't
serious.
titillating. It wasn't stimulating for you.
It was a serious discussion about a serious problem in our society that we seriously don't face or talk about.
Right. And if you can, for some odd reason, find Tiffany, reach out to me at Rod, RAAD, period, Gantos, GHANTOUS, at gmail.com, or you can trip all over me on social media, so I'm not going to be hard to find, and go to the Raad Life on Facebook and letting us know that you're trying to get a hold of Tiffany, and we'll connect you. But please, please, please do not suffer in silence. It's about love, and it starts off with self-love. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. See you next week.
You have been listening to the Raad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Rod Gantos, brought to you on the one and only OCTalkRadio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.